Hey everybody, this is Wendy from the Lewiston Public Library presenting the third online web edition of Art Attack, a program designed as an open art studio project for adults at LPL. During the closure, I'm broadcasting videos of art activities that also celebrate Maine's Bicentennial. Today I've got a little printing project using the Maine State Tree, the eastern white pine. We'll also be using a couple of other natural plant materials to achieve some different results. As usual, I'm sending thanks to the Maine State Library and the Maine Humanities Council for their Bicentennial Library Toolkit, which contains lots of great information and inspiration. As we all know, Maine is known as the pine tree state, in part due to the important role the tree has historically played in the state's economy, especially for the lumber and early shipbuilding industries, where the tall pines were perfect for ships' masts. The tree's Latin name is Pinus strobus, and it's featured in the center of Maine's coat of arms. Eastern white pines are coniferous. Conifers are typically evergreen trees, including pine, fir, and spruce, and their seeds are cone-shaped. So I'm going to do a couple of different things today using some tree bark and boughs that I picked up off of the ground in the woods near where I live. All of the material I'm using is very basic and inexpensive: a pencil, plain paper, a chip brush, finger paint, wax paper, a little bit of cloth, and a book. To start, I'm just going to spread some paint onto a part of a pine branch, painting the needles. Once it's covered, I'm just going to lay it down, cover it with wax paper, put a book on it. I don't have any kind of formal press, and put pressure on it. The great thing about printing is that it can be done multiple times and you can use it to create patterns. I realized that when I blotted that second print with a paper towel, I like how it looked on the towel, so I'm going to do it again on a piece of cloth. This turned out nicely. We can really see the baby pine cone right there. And this is something that you could do to make Maine-themed napkins or tea towels as a gift with something more permanent like ink. Now I'm going to switch over to a different technique called frottage. That's the French word for rubbing, as in taking rubbings from gravestones. This technique has been around for centuries, and it's a way of making an image with graphite or charcoal by placing paper over a textured surface and rubbing it. It might seem a little simplistic, but it's actually considered an art form, and it's a great way to create graphic patterns. In the 1920s and 30s, Surrealist and Dadaist Max Ernst used it frequently. In this case, I'm using a piece of bark from a white birch tree, which are also very common in Maine. So here's how to do it. And the result is a little abstract, but it could make a really nice background for something else. I'm going to use one more type of plant to do a little bit more printing. This is the stem and seeds of something called the sensitive fern or the bead fern, or Onoclea sensibilis. I'm doing the same thing that I did with the piece of pine branch, but I'm going to print onto the page of birch bark frottage. This fern, as I said, is also called bead fern because the dried seed pods look like little beads. And it's a nice tool to use for this work. So I'm repeating the process once again, and now I'm bringing in the piece of pine to print onto the same page. I also added a little bit of yellow paint along with the green to change things up a bit. So there we go, printing with bead fern and pine needles and cones on a page done using the frottage technique with birch bark. I was a little messy, but I know that you could do better at home and make something really beautiful, and take your time. I'd like to thank the many sources I turned to for this project: Inform Me, the Arbor Day Foundation, MoMA, the Maine Humanities Council, Maine Memory Network, Penobscot Marine Museum, and the Northeastern Lumber Manufacturers Association. That's it for this week. Thanks for taking the time to learn a little bit about the eastern white pine, or Pinus strobus, and keep an eye out for another episode of Art Attack. Thanks for watching.